I've never been the kind of person who believes in destiny. I've always preferred the solidity of concrete to the fragility of mystical ideas. Maybe that's why I chose architecture. There's something comforting about planning a space, calculating everything down to the smallest detail, and watching it take shape. But nothing I've experienced in the last few months can be explained with logic or engineering. If I had to put a name to what happened to me, I might use the word resonance, as if something ancient had been vibrating beneath my feet all this time, waiting for me to hear it. My name is Maddox. I'm 38 years old, an architect, and bitter. I won't deny it. I lost my wife in a preventable accident. And even after 2 years, I still blame myself as if I pulled the trigger. Since then, my work has become my refuge. I have distanced myself from most people. Family, I hardly talk to anyone. Friends, only those who tolerate long silences and a bottle of whiskey for company. The inheritance arrived on a Monday morning, as all bad things seem to do. A letter from my great-aunt, who I didn't even know was alive, notifying me that the old Maddox house in Taos, New Mexico, was now mine. I need to take care of what was left to you, Kobe. The house feels it when someone from the lineage returns. Those were her words. It sounded more like a threat than a gift. I traveled to Taos in early March. Winter was still showing signs of resistance, but the dry, crisp mountain air already smelled of old dust and loneliness. The house sat high on a secluded plateau, with no neighbors in sight. It was an adobe structure with exposed wooden beams, windows too small to let in any real light, and an eerie, heavy, almost respectful silence. My stomach tightened as soon as I parked the car. Not from fear, not yet. It was like something recognized me. I entered without ceremony. The door was unlocked as if I had been expected. The furniture was covered with sheets, and the air smelled of dry wood, earth, and old dampness. In the corner of the room was an unlit fireplace, with ashes that looked as if they had been recently disturbed. I thought it was odd, but ignored it. I spent the first 2 days taking mental inventory of what needed to be fixed. My plan was simple: fix up the house, sell it or rent it out, and move back to Denver. Nothing I couldn't handle. On the third night, something changed. I woke up at 3 in the morning to a sound. A knock, 3 of them, coming from underneath the house. I figured it was the plumbing, or maybe an animal. Drumsticks, rats, I don't know. I grabbed a flashlight and went down to the basement, which was hidden behind the pantry. The stairs were steep and the light bulb hanging from a thick cord swayed in the breeze, even though there were no windows nearby. The sound stopped as soon as I went downstairs. I checked everything. There was no sign of rodents, just compacted earth, old wooden boxes and moisture sticking to my skin. I went back to bed, thinking my tired mind was playing tricks on me. But the next night, the knocking came back, and it was accompanied by dreams. Dreams too vivid. I was in another time, with another voice, other thoughts, but I was still me. In them I was betraying someone, a woman with hair as black as coal, eyes like the night. She cried, begged. I left her behind, in a barren field, surrounded by stone columns. And before waking, I always heard her whisper, "You promised to guard the door, Kobe. Why did you lock me there?" After the 5th night, I decided to investigate further. I removed part of the floorboards in the main room, drawn to a spot where the boards seemed hollow. Beneath them, I found dark, damp earth and a wooden structure that had not been included in the original plans for the house. I dug for hours until my hands bled. When I finally found the door, I didn't know whether to laugh or scream. It was low, made of thick, age-blackened wood, covered in handprints as if dozens, maybe hundreds of people had tried to open it or keep it closed. There were symbols carved into it too, circles, eyes, spirals, and a name repeated over and over, Kalisa. I spent the next few days avoiding that door, but something changed inside me. The house seemed alive, the furniture creaked on its own, the mirrors fogged up for no reason. There was never enough light. I began to smell smoke, even when the fireplace was off. Voices began to echo in the hallways, saying things I didn't want to remember. And every night, I dreamed about her. My reflection in the mirror began to stare back at me with a second's delay. I began to hear the knocking outside at night, in the afternoon, at breakfast. They were growing impatient. The house whispered with the walls. It was begging to be remembered. I don't know how much time passed. I stopped counting the days. I ate little. I lost weight. My beard grew unruly. I looked like a different man, or maybe the same man I had always been, stripped of the distractions of modern life. I sat in front of the door for hours, sometimes afraid, sometimes guilty, but always with the feeling that she was waiting for me. And when I finally touched the doorknob, cold as buried metal, I understood that it was not just a door, it was a mirror buried in time. And I was both the guardian and the betrayer. When I touched the doorknob, something ran through me as if my bones had been doused in ice water. It wasn't just cold, it was memory. It was as if the wood held every regret, every lie told, every wrong choice from someone I was before I was Kobe Maddox. The doorknob gave way with absurd ease. No lock, no resistance. The door swung open as if it had been waiting for me for centuries. The darkness on the other side was different. It wasn't just an absence of light, it was a dense darkness, smelling of wet earth and rusty iron. I entered with the flashlight in my hand, shaking. The air was colder there, thicker. Every breath seemed to pull in something that didn't belong in my body. The space was narrow, cavernous, with roots hanging from the ceiling like petrified veins. The floor was covered in symbols drawn in charcoal and what looked like dried blood. The designs pulsed subtly, as if breathing at the touch of my presence. I walked on, trying to rationalize. Maybe it was an old wine cellar. Maybe my ancestors had spiritual beliefs and this was a shrine. I was searching for simple answers because I desperately needed them. But everything about it screamed that there was nothing simple about this place. There was a mirror at the end of the hallway leaning against the mud wall. An old mirror, oval-shaped, carved with distorted faces that seemed to move if you stared at it for too long. The glass was covered in dust, but when I got closer, I saw something impossible. It wasn't my reflection. It was another man with similar features to mine, but his gaze was hollow. And behind him a woman, black hair, eyes like night, just like in the dream. Kalisa. She was staring at me through the mirror, as if she were trapped there. When I touched the glass, she whispered again, "You promised me, Kobe." Backing away would have been sensible, but I had already crossed the line. From that moment on, the house became an extension of my thoughts. Doors I didn't remember closing were locked. Lights I was sure I had turned off, turned on by themselves. I found symbols scrawled on the walls, always made with fresh charcoal, even when I was alone. I began to lose hours. I would find myself sitting in front of the fireplace, staring into the flames, with my hands covered in dirt, and not remembering how I had gotten there. During one of these absences, I woke up in the basement. There were scratches on my arms, long, parallel, as if something had tried to pull me, and on the floor a circle of salt had been drawn around me. It wasn't me. I would never have done that. The next morning, I found a notebook among the rubble of an old bookshelf. The leather cover was cracked, and the name on the first page was Elias Maddox, my great-grandfather. The journal began like any other construction log, but as the pages progressed, the writing changed. It became irregular, chaotic. He spoke of building the house on the dot, of the responsibility of keeping the door sealed, and of the warnings he had received in dreams. One passage in particular stuck with me. She came to me in the reflection of the water, in the foggy glass, in the vanity mirror. Always her eyes, always that silent judgment. And now she wants out. She wants someone to pay the price. I don't know how much longer I can hold her back. That night was the worst. I woke up to the sound of the door opening by itself, the one in the foundation. I ran to it. When I went down, the hallway was different. It seemed longer. The roots were bleeding a thick liquid. The air trembled as if it were about to break. In the mirror she was there, Kalisa, crying. But beside her, there was something else, a faceless figure, made of writhing shadows, as if woven from pieces of regret and silence. She reached out a hand to the glass and it began to crack. Each shard reflected a part of me I didn't want to face. The man who abandoned her, the one who betrayed her. the one who ran away, not just in this life. I ran. I climbed back up. I nailed boards over the door. I drew the symbols from the diary on the walls with charcoal. I sprinkled salt in every corner of the house, but it was no use. The knocking came back, louder now, more impatient, and the dreams became memories. I saw myself centuries ago deciding to seal the door, betraying Kalisa, who was a guardian like me. To prevent her from crossing, I used her own body as a seal. I betrayed her because I was a coward, because I thought the evil was in her. But the evil was in me, in the fear that made me lie, in the pride that made me abandon. On the last night, the house shook. The foundations creaked. The mirror cracked completely. I knew what I had to do. I went down to the door. This time I took the notebook. I opened the mirror, touched the shattered glass. She was there. Kalisa. Her eyes no longer held anger, only pain and compassion. You can see, Kobe, but you have to choose. Behind her, the creature waited for me, hungry. She whispered something I understood without hearing. You can only close the portal from the inside. Then I went in, and everything changed. Now I write this without knowing if it is still me. The house is silent, the door is locked, yes, but from the outside, and I was the one who sealed it. From the inside, I became the seal, the presence, the new reflection. If someone ever inherits this house, I hope they read this account before they enter, before they touch the marked wood, before they hear the knocking, because if it opens again, I will need another place to hide. I don't know how much time has passed since I entered. Down here, time doesn't work like it does outside. There's no sun, no night, only a thick darkness that pulses, alive, as if it were breathing around me. It's a prison made of thought and memory. And even if I knew the way back, I'm not sure if the Kobe who walked to this point still exists. What's left of me is fused to the walls, to the roots, to the mirror that now shows me her face every time I close my eyes. Kalisa. She doesn't speak, not anymore, but she's everywhere. Her pain vibrates like a bell sunk into the flesh of the house. She watches me. Not with hate, but with a deep sadness, so thick it could spread like mist. She was the guardian before me, and I betrayed her, not out of malice, but out of fear, and maybe because somewhere inside me, I knew I would have to take her place. There is no escape. There are only echoes, and there are many of them. Every step I take within this space reverberates through the generations. I hear the voices of those who came before, men of my blood, some good, some weak, all marked by the same curse. The Maddox line is a thread stretched across the mouth of an abyss, and now I am the final knot. The creature is here too. I don't see her, but I feel her. She's close, sometimes on the ceiling, sometimes crawling along the walls, whispering words that don't exist in any known language. Her sound is not made of sound, but of ideas. She shows me images, possibilities, lives I never lived, paths I abandoned, people I left behind. And with each image, she smiles, even without a face, because she knows it's not the suffering that destroys me, it's the guilt. She feeds on that. But I still resist. I still carry the diary with me, or what's left of it. The pages are fading, as if time here is eating away at them. I try to rewrite them, scribbling symbols I barely understand, in the hope that if someone finds this house after me, they'll have a chance. That's my task now, to be the seal, the bridge, the warning. But something has changed in the last few days, if I can call it that. I've started hearing footsteps above. Someone is in the house, heavy, determined, not an animal, a person. The sound echoes down here like muffled thunder. For a moment, my chest fills with hope. Maybe someone has come to get me. Maybe there's a chance I could be freed. But I soon understand otherwise. It was the sound of inheritance. Someone from the family has returned. Maybe a distant cousin, an heir who doesn't even know what he's inherited. And now he's upstairs, dusting, removing the floorboards, maybe hearing the first knocks, believing it's just a problem with the plumbing. That's when I noticed that the cracked mirror at the end of the hallway was reflecting something again. This time a young man, short hair, an expression of tiredness and curiosity. He was looking directly at the glass as if he could see me, but he couldn't see. He could only feel. His hand trembled near the frame, like mine had years ago. It was like watching a memory repeat itself out of order, and behind him the cracks began to close. The creature approached me that night. It didn't come violently. It came like an old perfume, full of memories. It showed me the house as it was centuries ago. Alive, full of voices, laughter and music. Before all this, before the door, it showed me Kalisa, smiling, then crying, then trapped. It showed me myself over and over again, at different times, always making the same mistake, closing my eyes to what I didn't understand, betraying for self-preservation. The creature offered me something, freedom. She said that if I opened the door from the inside, she could leave. She wouldn't need the house anymore or the lineage. She could go away and she would leave me alone. But I saw the lie in her eyes that she didn't have. She saw cities burned. I saw people forgetting who they were. I saw mothers burying children who were born with shadows in place of souls. Whatever is trapped here, it doesn't belong in the world outside. She lied to Kalisa. She lies to me. And she will lie to the next one, so I wrote. On the wall, with charcoal dug from the roots, I carved the words that had been on the first page of Elias Maddox's diary. He who hears the knocking will inherit the burden, but also the choice. The knocks began to echo louder again, and with them laughter, not human, long, broken, as if time were cracking from within. The house is waking up. The new air is near the door. I can feel his doubt, the hesitation that was once mine. The mirror is clearer. Now I see everything. I see the entire past as a film strip burning in reverse. The decisions, the losses, the forgotten names, all the pain we built brick by brick into this house. It's not just made of adobe and wood. It's made of us, of what we hide, what we bury, what we pretend not to see. A prison built with the cement of regret. And yet, there's a small chance. If he resists, if he understands before he opens up, if he feels what I felt, maybe the cycle will break. Maybe this will all end. But if he fails, I'll have to take his place. And this time, maybe I won't resist. The first knock came at dawn. After so long immersed in the living darkness of this place, I almost didn't recognize the faint light that passed through the crack in the mirror. It wasn't a real light, but a memory of it. The reflection was different now, clearer, as if the layer of dust and pain had begun to fade. On the other side, the boy was on his knees in front of the door. He was younger than I had imagined, maybe in his early 20s. His brown hair was disheveled, his t-shirt was sweaty, his hands were covered in dirt. His name echoed inside me without anyone saying it. Mason. I felt his breathing quicken, the weight of doubt crushing his shoulders. He didn't know what he had found, he only knew that something was wrong. That door, under the foundation, shouldn't be there. And yet it was. Waiting, as it always had been, as perhaps it always will be. Second knock. The house shook inside, even though on the surface it remained completely silent. The creature moved. It slithered behind me, soundless, formless. Just presence, like a deep-rooted thought that refused to go away. I stepped closer to the mirror. I touched the cracked glass with my fingertips. On the other side, Mason stood up, startled. His gaze met mine for a moment. He couldn't see me, but he felt me, and he recoiled. I saw his body hesitate, his chest rising too fast, his pupils dilated, a pure instinctive panic, like that of an animal about to enter predator territory. For a second, I thought he was going to run, that he would leave everything behind, that he would lock the house and go on with his life, ignoring what he had seen. But then he crouched down and began removing the boards nailed over the door. Third knock. The creature whispered something. A chuckle, a shiver ran down my spine. I knew what was coming next. I had lived this cycle before. Hesitation would turn to curiosity, curiosity to action, and action to ruin. With each plank ripped out, I felt the seal weaken. The walls vibrated with a dull sound, almost like an ancient drum, calling for my return. The house began to remember who it was. It began to breathe again. I tried to scream, to bang on the mirror, but here, my voice is thought, and thought does not penetrate wood. Mason opened the door. The air changed immediately. The darkness surrounding me leaned forward as if inhaling deeply. On the other side, he walked slowly down the steps, his eyes half closed, his fingers trembling against the flashlight. With each step, the hallway molded itself to him, taking on the shape of his own memories. Old photos on the walls, childhood voices echoing. The scent of a grandmother's perfume he barely remembered. The house seduced him, shaped him, pulled him in. I screamed without sound. I tried to reach the mirror to break the barrier, but it was too late. He entered the space where I was. He stopped in front of the mirror, and he saw me. Not as a reflection, not as a delusion. He saw me. And in that moment, I realized that the house had done something it had never done before. It had allowed him to see me, see the truth, see the cycle. Mason took a step back, then he spoke. His voice was muffled but real. "Who are you?" My words came out like thoughts straight to him. He shivered, but he didn't run away. The creature approached. It came crawling, weaving itself into the shadows that flowed across the walls. Its eyes, or whatever they were, opened like wounds in the darkness. It showed itself to him. It tempted him, just as it had me. It promised liberation, knowledge, truths he would never find in the ordinary world. It promised power, forgiveness, immortality. Mason stood still for minutes that felt like days. His eyes were fixed on the creature. The light from the flashlight was flickering as if fear was emanating from his very skin. But then he said something that broke me. "She's lying." The creature flinched for a second, surprised, frustrated, enraged. He turned to me, he stared at the mirror, and he said, "How do I get out of here?" Tears welled up in my eyes. I didn't know. I never knew. But in that moment I understood. He wasn't the one who needed to get out. It was me. I was the one who was still trapped. Mason reached up. He touched the mirror, and it began to crack. The glass cracked like ice under pressure. The creature screamed, a sound that didn't go through the ear but went straight to the brain. Anger, fear, hunger. The mirror exploded. The light cut through the underground corridor like a white blade, cutting the darkness in half. The creature was swallowed by its own reflection, dragged into the walls. It screamed in 1,000 languages, and then silence. The floor crumbled beneath me. It felt like I was being pulled upward. Not like I was floating, but like the weight of guilt was finally being ripped from my flesh. I woke up on the living room floor. Light streamed through the windows, soft morning light. The walls were clean, the air was breathable, the house alive, but not hungry. Mason was kneeling before me, his eyes filled with confusion and tears. You were trapped there." I shook my head slowly. "For a long time." He helped me sit down. We sat there in silence. The house said nothing more. The door was sealed, the mirror gone. Where there had been a crack in the floor, there was now a circle of stone, smooth, as if it had never been opened. Mason didn't ask me any more questions, and I didn't give any answers. Maybe he understood deep down that some truths shouldn't be spoken out loud. Over the next few days, I helped prepare for his departure. He decided not to stay. The house would be closed, not sold, not renovated, just left alone. The morning he left a note on the kitchen table. "Thank you for not giving up." I stayed a few more days, as if saying goodbye little by little. At the last dawn, I left Elias Maddox's diary buried under the fireplace, and next to it, I wrote my own words. "For whoever comes after, if they ever come, the house is silent, but listen carefully. What it holds does not disappear, it only sleeps, and sometimes dreams know how to open doors better than hands."